Are you there?
Yeah, we lost connection there for a bit.
Yeah, that's so funny. I wonder how they do it. What will people do? Will they just have to get in a new one?
I don't think so.
Okay, I'm watching. It's showing. It's just showing your page. Can you guys hear us yet? I wonder if they have to go to a new live stream.
No, it's going.
Is it okay? Okay, good. Man, I was waxing eloquently on my macro view of China. So, but I think the Chinese did it to relieve pressure on their capital controls. I think they're letting people monetize out, and they're going to use Bitcoin as a vehicle to get wealth out of the country. So,
Well, that's going to be really huge.
oh yeah, I think so too. I because they're the Chinese are maniacal gamblers, and I think that was one of the reasons I think we had such a robust market in 2016 and 2017 between the Chinese and the Koreans, and then the U.S. coming into play. It started going gangster, and so um, happy times could be here again.
Right.
Good.
Yeah, Papa Lock, you missed the waxing. Bob was waxing.
Yeah, and don't take that the wrong way.
Yeah, so guys, I think going forward, when we're talking about uh, the cryptos and stuff like that, I think altcoins, and I think will largely follow Bitcoin and going forward, as opposed to kind of like the smashing that happened toward the last part of last year, where everything got crushed. Bitcoin was moving up, everything was getting crushed until about December, and then we had a big resurgence. But I think we're seeing sort of more of a rounded bottom to this. Everyone's thinking we're going to have a big capitulation move, and that doesn't always necessarily have to happen. On this chart here, we've got kind of the like when we talk about parabolic rises with an asset class like Bitcoin. So we're looking at something like this where you start seeing. I highlighted these pullbacks because what's going to happen is these macro pullbacks will start to shrink in size as you kind of spin up into the S curve adoption, and you start seeing a lot of right now we're over 100 billion in market cap on Bitcoin, but really I think you need to start looking at that number as heading to the trillions. And so part of the equation on there is the halving event that happens, and that's going to happen in 2020. The last time that happened was 2016, which is back over here in this area, right? And that was $600, $300 to $600 Bitcoin, and then you just had just this exponential growth phase. That's because the inflation rate now has decreased, right? It went from a BTC reward 25 to 12 and a half Bitcoins per block, and then that's going to go down to 6.25 Bitcoin per block. So those are just forces that you can't deny. That's going to be a huge bullish effect into 2020. And I think, looking back at these prices, again, it's going to be another case of wish I could have, but I didn't. Even at these valuations, buying Bitcoin often, you just buy fractions of it, right? You don't have to buy a whole Bitcoin, because we're going to get into a point now where it's going to be hard for people to accumulate one whole Bitcoin or whole Bitcoins. A lot of people will just own fractions of it, and so that was, I think, what was a big opportunity missed in 2017 for a lot of people is they could have got 4 or 5 So those that were in the room mid 2017, they got that opportunity. They were picking it up at 1,000, 1,200 bucks, and were able to get those kind of numbers in their portfolio, and now they're holding for this next parabolic move up, which brings us to the chart and why the chart for the old, um, up here is a 4 day chart, and the reason why it's 4 days is because we're dealing with this compression cycle, right? So this was the old chart, and this is the current chart. So what we're seeing now is basically the psychology of the move is the same, and it's not exactly perfect, but a lot of times some pivotal points in this upper chart here, this 4 day chart, which compresses down to our current day chart below here, uh, starts to line up with some of the key pivot moves on the price of Bitcoin currently. So next thing we're looking at, and we said this back even late September, we'd get into a period of chop because that's what the model was saying. That's what we have here. And now as we head into toward the middle part of November, we're going to start looking to see if we can see this big up move that we saw at this point in the cycle on the last. And this was really, if we do see this, and this is probably going to, in all likelihood, confirm that the bottom here at around 6,000 is in, and we start drifting higher. So that's currently our outlook with Bitcoin and largely the crypto alt space. With the high and mid caps probably following this pattern a little bit more than maybe some of that smaller micro cap stuff.
Hey, also Phil, with Ethereum too, is that there's a lot of banter now on the resurgence of these smart contracts and privacy coins, and that there's going to be kind of a renewal of some tokens again using the Ethereum backbone. And if you notice, Ethereum started getting a bit of a pop, and I saw somebody here talking about Litecoin halving in 2019. It just seems like positioning of a sailboat race again. That we're starting to see movement in these top coins, which is kind of kind of reassuring.
Yeah, I think any halving event, especially with something like Litecoin, is going to be pretty bullish. So again, if you look at Litecoin historically, especially the Litecoin Bitcoin ratio, this is where you buy it. This is the cheap zone. There's the cheap end of the spectrum and the expensive end of the spectrum, and Litecoin's in that cheap end of the spectrum. If I can find that chart, I'll load it for you guys. But Ethereum's had a nice, decent move up from this. One thing about Ethereum, when it consolidates like we've been doing here, it does have a tendency to have a nice move out of that. So with Ethereum now, I think it would be prudent to look to be picking some up soon as it pulls back, maybe this 0.031 area for ETH BTC. For ETH USD, you'd probably be looking at the 250. Let's see where we at now. So probably looking at this 205 area would probably be a decent stab on a pullback here and see if you can get that next push higher. Because when Ethereum does start to move, I mean, it's a rocket ship, just like Litecoin. And that's where you can start, especially if you're trading it against Bitcoin to gain Bitcoin on the Bitcoin ratio. That's a good spot. But this could easily move up through this volume void here, and you'll see 280 to 300. You'll probably run into this next area of resistance, which was with a prior kind of consolidation that tried to put in a bottom and it broke it. So that 280, 290 area, probably the next target if this move can hold higher lows and start moving up. Back to Litecoin, this is the chart I wanted to show you guys. So this is right now, this is the area you want to be picking up Litecoin in this area here, and then, this is just my barometer of when Litecoin is cheap. You got a huge accumulation zone here, but it could very quickly get back up into this 0.016 area. And, you're looking at a double there. And again, I think a lot of times people will sleep on on Litecoin, and you'll have a prolonged move down like you see here, and then all of a sudden, boom, it just takes off. So it doesn't hurt to ladder in this area, or if you've got some you're holding, just wait. If you got in higher here, I think you're fine. I think we get back up into this 0.016 area once it starts to move up, and I think that move can happen fairly quickly. It's just taking way longer than anybody wants, and they get fed up with it. But once that happens, that FOMO kicks in again, and everybody will be singing the alt season's back, and I think it's a pretty powerful move waiting to happen here.
Yeah, somebody asked a question about Ripple, and I have the chart up. Is that it just had one of its spikes up to 57 cents, and that's three standard deviations on a linear channel, and now it's sold back down to 49 and a half, and so probably needs to hold support at 47, and if not, it's going to roll back down to the bottom of that channel at 46. Looks like maybe a pump and dump, Phil. I don't know. You can
Well,
tell
if
me.
you look at the daily chart, right now we're trading at 76.68 on Binance, and you got a huge volume node here at around the 7,000 mark. So you're going to want to take a stab at this thing, anywhere from 7,200, 7,000 to 7,200 in that area. I think you're going to see some kind of bounce here. That was just a huge level that they were accumulating on, and it might be a short-lived bounce, but there's an actionable trade there. Again, Ripple, that's like goes against the ethos of Bitcoin and crypto, highly centralized, and I know they've got like a very voracious like support group that likes it. But as far as realistically with Ripple, there's just a ton of supply out there. It's all locked up. It's all centralized. Will they have some use cases? Probably, but yeah, I wouldn't. I do not like Ripple as a long term hold. Like it as a trade though, because it has the moves are really explosive on it. So it's a good trader when you get an opportunity to get in and swing trade it. Like I think we have setting up here, and strictly that would be just to grow your Bitcoin stash is what the way I look at Ripple.
Yeah, ZRX, Boris, Phil put a buy signal out on that not too long ago, within the last 2 hours. So I don't know. It looks like it might have stabbed it, Phil, since we've been talking. But I don't know. I'm already fully invested, so I didn't take that. I didn't take that trade. So I
We
think
got a low of 11,035. We're very close. I mean, for all intents and purposes, I mean it's you could start dabbing in here. But yeah, this was an area that we looked at where for 0x to bounce off this area here. Um, that would put in a head and shoulders too. And so, here's your shoulder, your head, and then your other shoulder would form here. Then if we can break this neckline, then I think that's going to be a pretty bullish move. 0x moves very very quickly when it does get going to the upside, so I do like it. So, um, I think there's a trade here on this move down to pick it up because we've seen a lot of altcoins. If you look at the altcoin chart, I said in the videos, watch getting long up in this area here because altcoin market cap loves to respect support and resistance and trend lines. And when a trend line breaks, usually that's a pretty big catalyst. And as you're seeing now, we're getting a rejection off this. So, but the thing to keep in mind is that we also have with the market cap, we may not necessarily retrace this move back down to this lower trend line because we have areas of support in here. So we may see a stall here, which would be really bullish because I've been saying for a few weeks now, I think we're heading to this line in the sand up here at about a 118, 119 billion-dollar market cap level, and that's just strictly altcoin cap. That this chart excludes Bitcoin, and so I think that's still in play. We're just taking a little breather here, and we were oversold on the RSI as you can see here. So all makes sense. But that's why we said don't take any longs up here. Wait for a pullback, and that's what we're seeing now on quite a few of the mid cap alts.
yeah, and Ethereum Classic looks pretty decent too, Phil.
You can look at that, ETC, BTC. I think it has. I think that's all this stuff on Coinbase that are the fiat on ramps, and I know they're going to list Ethereum tokens too eventually, but as they are with BAT and ETC, and they'll add other ones. But I think that these current ones are actually probably have some pretty decent upside because they've been on the system for a while now. Um, let's look at let's look at a longer term ETC BTC chart because let's look at Bittrex. They've had it on there for a while. So we're kind of looking for like this, again, when you look at when these coins, you got to zoom way out here, but if you look at where ETC is currently historically, I mean, this is a value area for it. So if you're to say I'm going to take a stab at some longs here, I actually like that. A, because just historically it's a good value on the long-term price of Ethereum Classic, and the alt market in general is starting to move up and put in a base, put in a bottom. We talked about that in that video back in September. Keep a lookout on the bottom on the altcoin market, and sure enough, that was the bottom. So um, I don't have any. This would be a longer term play. I wouldn't put any like tight stops here. This would be more of a long term play, getting back up into this 2600 area to 2800. So it'd be a decent sized percentage move. That one there, I'd probably put some to work and let it do its thing, and then give it some time. But I think it eventually can get back up there, especially if it breaks through. And I'll draw a line here. What you want to see it do is break through that 19.6 level. Even that move there would be a nice percentage gain. So I like the spot here for it. ETC versus ETH. I think ETH can be more explosive, Boris, because just I think all of the network effect of it. Okay, so ETC definitely can move. I mean, it's shown that it can move when it's cycling in price. It can definitely move. The problem, as with a lot of alts, you get stuck in these downtrends, right? And it's just kind of stays pegged, oversold. But once you start seeing signs of life and it rounds out and starts to bottom, this is where nobody wants to get in at because they're thinking, oh, it's not going to clear these moving averages, and then it does and it pops. I think the move to 9.0019 level, I think probably happens pretty quickly when the move starts to manifest. Because if you look back in like August of this year, you saw pretty decent pops. June too, so this thing can move quickly. It's just a matter of catching that first start of that move, and a lot of people miss that. Yeah, Ken, ETH, their problem right now is scaling. They have a hard time, that's obviously the big issue. And so, that's when the competition heats up. They will have to figure that out. It just doesn't seem like they have a solid handle on what the solution ultimately is going to be. If they don't, then we're going to start seeing alternatives come into play to take over that distributed computing platform. I mean, keep in mind there's RSK, which runs Rootstock, that runs on the Bitcoin blockchain. It runs Ethereum code. And that's what I'm saying. Some of these projects will get absorbed into the Bitcoin blockchain on side chains or layer 2 applications.
Hey, somebody shot a question about alerts with our system. We kind of have three of them. One is the alerts that Phil puts out that he curates himself, that he's looking for opportunities. That comes out as a text message from us, and that's the ones that Phil actually look at. We have another alert that you see if you look on the chart and you see these arrows down and up. Is those are really self traded. So you would go ahead and trade those at your leisure because they're showing up on your computer. And the third one is that we actually have an alert out for called Crypto Express, where we actually have a number of the coins already pre-programmed, and those come to you as an email. So if that helps you, Ancient One, and it really depends on what you like. When you join the crypto room, in fact, if you join before Sunday, you can get all three of them. is you can pick and choose which ones that you want to respond to. And so, Phil, do you want to add to the alerts and how you manage them and what we set up in the computer?
Yeah, so like Bob said, you got one service that will, basically alert you like when the slingshots fire, right? So you'll get an email that says, hey, you got a sell signal or an exit signal, or that you have a buy signal. And what that does is that gives you the opportunity, so you're not staring at the charts constantly, because when these arrows fire on a 4 hour bar, they don't confirm until that bar is closed. And so you could be thumbing through charts and be like, oh, one fired 4 bars ago. Oh, I could have got in earlier. So when that email fires and sends you off, it's letting you know that something's confirmed on the basket of cryptos that we look at. And that's just really handy because it cuts down on the amount of screen time that you need to be having staring at the charts, searching for these arrows that fire. So uh, that's why we created that. The other one that I do is just like Bob said, I will go through and handpick things based on other criteria that I mean, ultimately when you're looking at these, as you learn when you get into the system that we teach, there these signals, you want to filter some of these out when they fire. So there's certain things that we look at, and so that's when you get into the room or the system that we have, we kind of guide you through how to better take those. They work pretty well by themselves, but really meant to signal you, to give you a heads up. Then you go into the chart, you look at it, if it meets your criteria to take the trade, but ultimately cuts down on the screen time that's required.
Yeah, yeah, and in addition to that, Phil brings up a good point. We put the signals out there. Actually, we put the signals out there for Phil and my benefit to start with, to help us filter and to put ourselves in the best possible position. But you just have to look at Zero X as an example that you know uh, the computer is only a tool, and it doesn't have the intuition of a person. And so Phil's looking for an opportunity to steal where the system could turn up above it. We would miss it, where he would see that and say, hey, if it does this, we're going to go ahead and we're going to steal some shares. So um, that's what we do when we call it curate it or watch it. The other thing too is that you know depending on the channel, if the channel scaling is trending down, you're going to be quicker to get out of a trade than if the channel is trending up. If it's trending up, you may want to run the swing longer. But if it's trending down, hey, if it pops up to the middle band, you're going to move your stop up right away. Or if it goes right back below where you bought it, you may want to bail, because that was obviously the selling's not exhausted yet. So those are the things that you learn as be part of the room, and also just seeing how we trade over time. You're going to say, hey, wow, the slingshot fired, but a lot of times it takes 2 or 3 bars for it to really settle. So I may take a starter position, and then I may take the rest of my position as it breaks back up higher, or it takes a lower low. So, but that's what the tools are for. So we have 3 tools. One comes text, one is on your computer, and one comes via email. And it's really dealer's choice how you want to use them, because we give you all 3. And then somebody asked me about DRD. Absolutely, just DRD is gonna get bought out. So you just want to tuck it away. It's another one like NAK. You just want to tuck it away, and you're gonna wake up one day and you're gonna go, "Wow, I hit the lottery." And that's why we, right now we have PLG. We bought it at 16 or 17 cents. It's knocking on the door at 21 cents. We had one on LODE where we had a 30% move in after buying it for a week, and we're seeing on another lotto pick too, antimony, which is another industrial metal that's a rare earth. And so, yeah, but DRD fits right into that thing. So you just have to size it right and sit on it. That's why we're following URG and UEC too. One of these days you're going to wake up and these guys are going to be taken out, and they're going to be up 300-400%. And it's good just to have a few of them in your portfolio, so you get open your Christmas present one morning. So I hope that helps. And NAK is a Alaskan gold miner, more like a gold prospecting company.
Bob, you want to take the chart?
What's that?
You want to take
Yeah,
the chart?
Yeah, let me pull it up here. Sorry, you get it set up here, and let's see here. We're just drowning in a sea of opportunities now, guys. It's just amazing. And look, NAK just popped here too. So this is one that ever since I started Trade Genius, I told people just to own it and hold it, and you'll be glad you did. And it'll move up. This is the largest potential gold mine, gold. What I say, in the ground in the world, bar none. And I think the U.S. is when we start to get into some of this deficit issues, is that they're going to remonetize gold, and this is a U.S. asset, and then they're going to let themselves drill this thing out. But they have everything. They have moly, they have gold, they have silver, they have copper. It's an incredible um, um, piece of asset, and it's in Alaska, and it's just a huge field. And then the one I just talked about here is Lode. So we caught this move. And we had it in here, and this is the one we caught because I noticed this move here. A lot of times they repeat, so we went ahead and we bought it, and then it popped again. I told people set your limit. You have to set sell limits on this. It's kind of like cryptos with these. You catch these moves and they're gone, and you're going to be in and out of them in a minute. And the one we're in right now that we're stalking, that should be a 30% move for us, is PLG, and it's knocking right at the door at 21 cents. And it's just been holding it. I can't break it. Probably sees all the sell orders up there, and it's not letting them fill. But this is going to pop out too. Platinum is also part of the electric universe in terms of the economy, and this will break out too. So these are great finds that stuck in. But people have to bear in mind, you don't throw your whole portfolio in there. You just put you know 2 or 3% on these small ones like this. So let me see anything else. People think you look smart, Phil. So I got specs on too, but they're $1.49 CVS reading glasses. So
Oh, maybe I should keep wearing them. Maybe it'll help my intelligence level.
hey, and somebody's asking about binary options, where to trade them. So
Um, well, in the U.S., it's going to be nadex.com, and they're regulated. Binary options get a knock because they kind of come off as like bucket shops, and that is true on some international entities that trade that. But in the U.S., it's really safe. Nadex is a regulated exchange, and so that's where we in the U.S. Trade binary options at.
CVS stock. Yeah, I'm sorry, I forgot about that Pure Play company. That's because of all the coupons I get that my wife redeems.
I don't know, Drew. Just do. I don't know. I like black. Black is beautiful.
That's too funny. It makes him look skinnier.
Hides my ever growing amount of gray hair, maybe. My friends tell me nothing as bad on binary options. Ken, I think the problem with binary options is because, binary options are true false. They're extremely leveraged. And I think it encourages that gambling nerve in people, especially if they start playing with 5 minute binaries, which you have to be hugely disciplined to do that. And you have to have a pretty rock solid strategy. And you also have to find an environment that isn't very volatile, which is, we're dealing with a volatile environment here. But because of the leverage on binary options and people don't have a system to play that, that's where I think revenge trading kicks in, and people wipe out their accounts pretty quickly. But we have a really high win percentage, and even those systems can go through a period where you might have a couple of losers within proximity of each other, and it feels like it's what's going on. But over time, our system is 100. Since we've been doing it at Trade Genius, and I brought this system over to Trade Genius. It's the official record is 127 and 8. 127 wins, 8 losses. So everybody that's been on this system for a length of time is, you know, well into the green on our high probability forex setups.
Yeah, and also too, you can also trade these as spreads as well, and you can bracket these trades too. And so there's a lot of strategies that you can do to help. And then because I come from a futures background, is that you can just trade money flow on these things too. So and you can just catch moves and hop off. And if you're wrong, you can be wrong fast and just lose a little bit. But when you're right, you can cash in the chips pretty nicely. So, you know, you have to have a room, and I think Phil's in the room all the time with the guys trading, especially when they're trading forex, and you can make some decent money on that. And so and it trades at different times of the day. That's the nice thing about binaries too, is that when the markets, our regular trading hours are closed, a lot of time the binaries are at their peak, especially if you are trading early evening West Coast time or late evening East Coast time or early morning in Australia and Japan in Asia. So I like it. It's just a tool though. I just derive part of what I try to get as income out of binaries. I kind of spread things around, and you trade what's working, and if something's not working, you let it resettle. And one thing that Phil does, I think, which is extraordinary, because it's helped me too, is that sometimes he just won't trade. There's certain times where you just don't trade, and I think that's the hardest thing to learn as a trader, is to not trade. And so we talk about these rules, and if you trade them, you trade at your own risk. So it's more about us than it is about the system. If you catch my meaning. Bunch of questions are flying through here.
Ken, you gotta be calm, especially with binary options and stuff like that. Otherwise, and I only speak from experience that, and I didn't used to be calm. I used to get really, uptight when I was in trades and stuff like that. And what a lot of times happens is people are oversizing their trades. So what you need to figure out, and most people don't, they oversize because they want to see their account grow, and I get that, but it leads to rash decision making. You want to be in a position where you're basically saying, okay, I got the signal, I'm going to take the trade because I know that this is a high probability setup. Could it lose? Yes. Do I know if it's going to win? No. But none of that really matters, because the statistical probabilities are that you keep taking the signals, you're going to make money over time. So that's really all you need to know. Once in a blue moon, there is a situation where we're in the room and there's something, it might be a news event or something, and we're like, oh, we got to, we might have to manage out of this trade and recommend a stop level, and you stop out. And that's perfectly fine too. But don't ever, being calm, part of that is because you're in a system that you trust and that you're not oversizing. If you're not calm when you're trading, and I mean, we're all human, so there's going to be periods, there's periods where I get nervous if a trade's getting close to the expiration and it's getting close to strike. That's never a fun feeling, and you're naturally going to want to feel a little on edge there. But by and large, you should be pretty calm. Otherwise, like I said, I think revenge trading is a big problem.
Yeah, and you know what? You don't want to be too calm though, because I've always said to myself, hey, don't overreact. The next thing I know, my $50 position is now $4 and no hope of getting out of it.
Well, you don't want to be complacent. You can be calm, but you don't want to be complacent.
Yeah, so that's it. With binaries, there's a tipping point, and same with futures too, where you fish or cut bait, and people tend to forget there's another trade a minute later, so just lose on the trade and move on, and make sure you save as much capital as you can. And if you notice, I didn't trade futures for almost 3 weeks now, whenever we started going through this crazy time, because I only have so much capital in my futures account, and the liquidity is so low that you can actually get wiped out before your stop even can be taken. And so you just have to kind of know the environment you're in. And so I've shifted from trading futures to go trading binaries during the high volatility period because I know if I'm wrong, and I'm out. And I still get the leverage that futures gives me, but I get the protection of almost like trading it like an option. That if I get blown out of that trade, I get blown out of just that trade versus the unlimited loss. You can, I was talking to a trader the other day, and I just said, look, in that 1 minute, I think it was last Friday, they lifted the market on these Trump tweets, and I just said somebody who lost $1,000 for their stop even hit, and you could have a stop, and the market was totally dead calm. It was sitting on support, wasn't moving, the volume was nowhere, and literally the next bar was 20 ES points higher. Well, they just crushed retail at that point. And so you just don't trade the market when the VIX is over like 18. It's just not, unless you have a big stash and you're playing edges, and trying to catch a move by playing edges, you can get blown out in a heartbeat. Where if you had that trade on for binaries and you had a contract and you were at 50-50, okay, you lost $50. Or you had 5 contracts, you lost 250. But if you had futures, you lost $1,000 or maybe $2,000. And that's why, where binaries has a place, even for speculation, even if you're trading other things. So just some thoughts.
So that's gonna wrap up our hour. Let's see,
Yeah,
Jeffrey.
I'm looking too.
Jeffrey, on your stop losses, binary options are a little bit of a different animal because of just the way that we trade them. So basically, if we say, here's your stop, take it, and don't worry about the percentages because we have like a 95% win rate. So it's a different animal. On other things like cryptos and stocks, you need to keep in mind what your percentage is going to be on your stop versus your target. You want to do 1.5 to 2 times what you're risking potentially as a profit margin over your stop loss. So you do that and you'll be a good trader because it allows you to make mistakes and stay in the game. But other than that, I got to run. So Bob, unless you got anything else, I think that's it.
No, I'm good. I really appreciate everybody's time. It was a really good discussion today. I'm glad we kind of moved it around some different subjects. Yeah, we're definitely gonna do this again, guys. So Phil and I are hoping to do it, well, at minimum once a month, but we'd like to get it to twice a month if we can, as long as our schedules line up. And between Phil and I don't think there's maybe more than 1 or 2 hours in a day that one of us is not trading. So we kind of have to schedule these far enough in advance so that we can be, especially Phil with forex trades at 7 p.m. expiration. So hopefully before Thanksgiving we'll be able to squeeze in another event. But we'll let you guys know. But I really appreciate everything. And if you don't use our service, we think we offer some really good value. And if you're interested, definitely check out the specials. Phil will throw in the slingshot for you guys if you buy before Sunday. And he runs that part of the business. And for the crypto side, binary side, and then on the stock future side, if you want to go that direction, I'll throw the slingshot in for that on my side too. If you buy one of the annual bundles, so and if you're already a customer and you're going to renew, absolutely we'll throw something in for you as well. So thanks a lot, guys, and have a good weekend. We'll see you guys in the room if you're trading with us tomorrow. Bye bye.
All right, guys. Thanks for watching. Take care.